Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? As always, I hope that this live or this replay is finding you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new here, my name is Mel, and I'm your favorite astrologer over here at Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. All right, so this is the weekly astro forecast for the week of August 8th through August 14th. All right, so I'm super excited because my streaming platform has actually allowed me to simultaneously stream to Facebook. So in addition to streaming here on YouTube, I'm able to now stream to Facebook at the same time. So if you are here from Facebook, welcome. Hopefully you will be joining me every Sunday at this same time to understand and find out what's going on for the week ahead. All right. Hey, Patricia Jean, how are you? Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for joining. All right. So if you are interested in astrology, if you want to know what's going on, if you want to get your life, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. But if you're regular, you already know for your weekly dose of astrology content, you meet me here every Sunday at 2 p.m. for the weekly astro forecast. All right. And if you want even more content, head over to Instagram and hit that follow button. I've got loads of excellent daily content. Plus, I go live over there every Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time for live readings by tarot sign. All right, so head over there so you don't miss any of that great stuff. All right, so let's let the good people over on Twitter know that we are live so they can join us. Is my Twitter button not working? There we go. All right, so hopefully they come through and join us as well. All right, so lot to discuss this week. We've got some major events happening. We've got the full moon in Aquarius. We've got Venus changing signs, and we still have some of this wonky energy that we are dealing with. Okay. But before I get into the nitty gritty, of course, got to plug some of my stuff. If you're new to astrology, or even if you just started and you need a refresher, I created something called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which basically gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know about astrology. It covers the 4 pillars of astrology, which are the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. It's an 11-page PDF document that basically gives you a short synopsis of all of the pertinent things that you need to know with respect to astrology. And once you sort of get these basics down, it becomes a lot easier to not only understand what I'm talking about, because astrology is very technical. You know, it could be a little confusing to understand, but it also gives you a basic foundation in order to start reading your natal chart, which is the blueprint to your life. Okay, so excellent. I've gotten great feedback on it. People love it, and I'm sure you will too. If you'd like to get your own copy, the link is going to be in the description box below. You just got to leave your email address and you will be good to go. All right, so that is again in the description box below. All right, so let's get into what we're dealing with this week. All right. So some of the highlights of this week is first what I like to call identity crisis, which sounds dramatic, and it is a little bit since we're still in Leo season, but definitely something that's going to be eye-opening and enlightening. All right. Then we've got passion and pride, and this refers to Venus moving into the sign of Leo, which is going to be happening on Thursday. And then finally, we have emotional freedom, which is signified by the full moon in Aquarius also going down on Thursday. And this is going to be sort of a breakthrough moment for a lot of us, especially given some of the energy that we're dealing with presently. Okay, so it's going to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster this week. But ultimately, I feel like a lot can be gained in terms of personal development. All right, so let's just have a little chat about what's going on for the week before we start breaking things down day by day. So a lot of us are still reeling from that major conjunction that we had last Monday. And that conjunction was Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in Taurus. So this was about expecting the unexpected. I called it the battle of wills, right? Because on the one hand, we had our own free will, the things that we want, our desires that we're trying to go after, plus sort of the universe or God's will for us, right? And where we're supposed to be going and sort of our destiny in this life. And when in reality, there isn't really necessarily a difference between our will and God's will, although at times there can be subtle differences. But I'm of the belief that whatever desires we have in our heart, they come from God. So our will and God's will usually go hand in hand, right? But I felt like the way that the astrology was set up, especially early last week, many of us were feeling like what we want to do is in sort of direct contradiction to where we're supposed to be going or what we're supposed to be doing. And many of us were feeling frustrated, stuck, stagnant, and angry even, because a lot of us felt like we couldn't get to where we needed to go. And sort of any step we took forward was met with challenges and obstacles. And if you didn't get a chance to, or if you haven't yet, definitely check out the weekly astro forecast from last week, because I think honestly in these last couple of weeks, last week's astrology was probably the highlight of what we've got going on this month. So definitely check that out. If you haven't already, I'll put the link to that in the description box below as well. All right. The good news and the bad news is that we are still dealing with this energy. So when I say that it happened last Monday, that means that all three planets were at the exact same degree last Monday. But the energies are very fluid, and the energies are going to be around for a little bit and definitely into this week, okay? And building on that energy, as a matter of fact, today we have Mars square Saturn. And I also sort of broke this down last week, but it bears mentioning again because we're still in this energy and it's still affecting a lot of us, right? So Mars square Saturn is really about, I think the example I gave was, you're in the car's still in park, but you are just revving the engine thinking that you're going to get someplace, right? Knowing full well that you're going nowhere fast, right? And that's sort of how we're feeling. It's like under the hood, we are revved up. We're so motivated and ready to go after what it is that we want. But our reality, our environment, the 3D world, the circumstances around us are either providing obstacles, challenges, or delays that are just getting in our way, right? And that energy is still very present today. As a matter of fact, the energy of that conjunction from last week, this energy of Mars square Saturn, is going to be around until at least the 20th, okay? Until Mars transits into Gemini, which we'll be doing on August 20th. We're still going to be feeling this energy of sort of trudging through the mud, of wanting to get from point A to point B in 2 seconds and experiencing delays, obstacles, and challenges, okay? Hey, what's up, Hollow? How you doing? Let me put your comment up on the screen. There we go. Hey, how you doing? All right. So it's just one of these situations. It's sort of one of these weeks where there's this undercurrent of frustration. Okay. And it's not just frustrating just to be frustrating. Okay. There's definitely a method behind the madness. And it dawned on me as I was preparing for this live, sort of what that method is, okay? So we've got the North Node in Taurus, and this is all about building foundations, right? It's about having a vision in sight, having a destiny, sort of following our North Star, and putting in the work in order to get there, building the foundation of this great empire, right? That's sort of how you can look at it. So many of us are at the beginning stages of tapping into our life's purpose, our destinies, what we're supposed to be doing, at least in the moment, right? And we're motivated, right? Because we've got Mars conjunct the North Node. So we're so motivated, we're fired up. But our external circumstances are volatile, and that's the presence of Uranus. It's sort of like, things are just happening surprisingly, unexpectedly. Things are all over the place and we feel we're on shaky ground. And like I said last week, that sort of makes people feel like whatever they're supposed to be doing or whatever they're motivated to do, that maybe they shouldn't be doing it, right? Because a lot of us, when we're on the road to manifestation, if we're met with resistance, a lot of us just want to give up because we're like, it's too hard. I can't deal with it. I don't have the fight left in me anymore. And it's sort of like the way that this transit is working out, particularly Mars square Saturn and the presence of Mars just generally in this conjunction, is that we are having a fire lit under our asses in order to stay motivated. Okay. And at first, when I got this message, I was like, okay, like I understand that, but I was trying to figure out sort of the way this would work out practically, right? And then I realized that a lot of times, positive reinforcement is amazing, right? And I think that we should have more positive reinforcement than negative, right? But along the journey of manifestation, right? Think of some of the things that you've manifested. Have you always remained motivated because, love and light, or because things were going well, or because of some positive affirmation that may just really be bullshit? No, there are times you get motivated because you're angry. You get times because you're met with resistance and you feel like you have to defend yourself, defend your idea, defend your passion, right? And that's exactly what a lot of us are going through right now. We're getting a fire lit under our asses in order to stay the course. Some of us are being jolted right now in order to start working, right? Because remember I said the North Node in Taurus is about building foundations. And some people, not even gonna lie, some people are just lazy. Like they know where they want to go, but they don't really want to put in the work, right? The example I thought of was, trying to purchase a home right now, right? Now, the way I'm going to give you a full holistic view of how this is working out sort of in real practical terms. So you want to buy a house, right? This is sort of Mars conjunct the North Node. This is your desire for something, for where you're sort of supposed to go. You want to have a home. Mars in Taurus wants something already built, turnkey, ready to move in. No work done. Just give me the key. I unlock the door and I'm here. I'm home. I don't have a fixer upper. I don't have to do anything. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's done. All right. North Node in Taurus is like, I don't think so. Like, you got to build this. I'm giving you the desire to want to have a home, but here's a hammer. Here's some wood. Get building. And you're like, what? Like, no. And then your outside circumstances are like, why do I even have this desire? Aren't we going into a recession? Isn't the economy like tanking right now? Why would I start building a home right now? Okay. And I feel like at the same time, your spirit is like, no, but we have to do this. This is something that we really want. This is something that we've wanted for a long time. And now is the time to take action. And so I feel like that's what many of us are feeling. Okay. Now, with Mars square Saturn can represent our 3D reality. So many of us are encountering obstacles in our circumstances. Saturn also represents time and delays. So this could be, you're working on something, but things just get delayed. Let's say, again, using our house as an example, your building materials, your supplies, all your suppliers are unreachable. There's shipping delays, so you can't get the stuff that you need, right? That could be one way that this plays out. Saturn also represents karma. So for some of you, karma may be standing in your way. And if you've listened to any of my other videos, you know that karma doesn't have a moral element to it. Karma is literally just cause and effect. So the effect of a previously taken action may be the obstacle that's standing in your way. For others, it may be relationships, particularly relationships with authority figures and or men, particularly male authority figures. So you may feel that someone is being harsh with you. Someone is purposefully trying to stand in your way. Perhaps a tried and true method or process for doing something or doing what you're trying to do is standing in your way to do something different and sort of break out the mold, right? So many of us are experiencing this right now. But it's imperative that you keep moving. It's imperative that you remain steadfast, regardless of what you're experiencing, regardless of whatever hardships are occurring right now. It's imperative that you stay the course, right? Because it's not even just like this is some predetermined destiny that you don't feel attached to. Many of us are very much attached to where we feel we need to go and what we feel we need to do at this time. Okay. So it's really important that you sort of, put your big girl or big boy pants on and just keep moving, keep going, keep trudging through the mud, right? And some of us are having a wake-up call, right? Because Mars in the mix wants everything now. And many of us have these lofty dreams. Many of us have these manifestations that may take some time. And so many of us are feeling impatient. Many of us are looking at other people, comparing ourselves, comparing our stories, our journeys, and thinking that, well, we should be there too. And that's not the case. Everyone has their own path. Everyone has their own time, right? So patience is definitely a virtue right now. And I'm pretty sure that you may find that annoying because I know when I'm feeling impatient and someone says that to me, I'm immediately annoyed, right? But patience really is something that we're going to need right now. Okay. And what's interesting is that tomorrow the moon is going to enter Capricorn. And so many of us, it's like this, our feelings with respect to all of this is really going to come to a head, right? Because moon in Capricorn, it's all about being desired. It's all about our desire to have success. It's our feelings related to status, success, materialism, things like that. And so if we're experiencing challenges, if we're experiencing delays, obstacles, and things like that, when the moon is in Capricorn, we're definitely going to be in our feelings about this because we want it now. We want the big reward. We want the big payoff. We want the recognition. We want everything that comes with crossing the finish line, and we want it now. And so if we don't have it right now, a lot of us may be feeling frustrated, angry, down, depressed. Moon in Capricorn also lends itself to feeling depressed and sort of paying too much attention. Let me not say too much attention, but paying a lot of attention to our 3D circumstances. Okay. So many of us may find tomorrow to be a little bit of a difficult day, but it's important to remember that this too shall pass. And in the cycle of life, in the cycle of manifestation, there are days like this. And just because you have a day like this doesn't mean that it's over. Doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing this or you should entertain something else, right? Mars is the warrior. Mars doesn't quit. Mars wins. And so are you a winner? I feel like this astrology, especially into this week, is going to ask that of you. Are you a winner? How bad do you want this? How committed are you to this new beginning, to this manifestation, to this desire? Okay. So again, I think it's really important to stay the course. Work through the frustration, the anger, the obstacles, because again, this too shall pass. All right. So now let's get into what I like to call identity crisis. Okay. And this is the Sun square the North Node, which is going down on Wednesday. Okay. So this is like, ego versus destiny. Okay. Many of us have an idea of who we want to be, what we want to be like. And that may be in contradiction to where we're supposed to go, if that makes any sense. This is sort of about growing into the person you are meant to become. And I think that a lot of the obstacles and challenges that we're experiencing now are helping build character, right? I was having this conversation with my sister the other day, and I was telling her that, years ago, I used to be very much into new moon rituals, full moon rituals. And during new moon rituals, I was all about intentions, all about, planting the seeds for manifestation. Not that I'm not like that anymore, but I was really heavy into that a good 5-6 years ago. And in reviewing some of those intentions, I was like, wow, these are some really big intentions. Like, these are pretty lofty. And I realized that a lot of the things that I experienced between then and now, and some of these things are horrific, just, to put it bluntly, shaped me into the person that could have those manifestations, right? And so Sun square North Node highlights that. It highlights who we are and who we are to become, and really puts a spotlight on that, and may show us where our current identity and our future identity are sort of incongruent. Okay. And it also highlights the growing pains that come along with that. Okay. So some of us may feel unsettled in ourselves, maybe even in our spirit, because we sort of have one foot in the old world and one foot in the new world. So many of us are experiencing an identity crisis of sorts. Like, who am I? Am I defined by what I have? Am I defined by what I want? Am I defined by what I'm supposed to be doing? I think these are questions that are going to be asked of us this week. And it's sort of up to us to figure out the answers to those questions. And who are we really? And what is it that we really want? And I feel like a lot of us are going to be feeling that. Some of us may have, I'm not going to say an ego death, although some may, depending on where this is going down in your chart. But I think others may, suffer from a bruised ego this week. Maybe perhaps some of the things that you wanted to pan out in a particular way won't. Maybe some of your character traits that may be standing in the way of you manifesting the things that you want, may come to the surface for you to deal with, for you to eradicate, or for you to fix, or whatever. So I feel like many of us may be shifting identities. Many of us may be tweaking our identities, figuring out what our identities are. So that's something that is definitely coming into the fold this week. So the next thing that we have is what I like to call passion versus pride, or passion and pride. And that's Venus into Leo. Okay. So I like this sort of energy for Venus because it's grand, it's expressive, it's very much affectionate. Okay. But it can be a bit superficial, right? Because Leo is the performer. Leo is all about being center stage, being the center of attention, right? And so it's almost like love becomes a bit performative for the sake of it. Romantic gestures are done for the extravagance of it, but not for the substance of it. Love can also be a little bit egotistical with Venus in Leo, right? It's sort of about us and how the person makes us feel. It's not as selfish as, say, Venus in Aries, right? Because Venus in Aries would be all about the self and not caring about anyone else. Venus in Leo is very loving. It's very generous. It's very warm. But a lot of times it's like being in love because you like how the other person makes you feel, which inherently isn't a bad thing. But when you really think about it, love shouldn't just be about how that person makes you feel. You know, love is a lot deeper than that. So that's sort of what we have to look forward to with Venus entering into Leo. And just because Leo is a sign of romance doesn't mean that it's necessarily about romance in terms of love and in terms of, you know, romantic relationships. This could be in any sort of relationship, friendship, relationships with people at work, with family, but it's sort of that lovey-dovey feeling in any relationship, but not necessarily much substance, okay? And not too much of consideration for the other person's feelings or perspective, okay? So that's definitely one of the things you want to be mindful of with Venus in Leo, okay? And that's going down on Thursday. And then finally, the main event of the week is going to be the full moon in Aquarius, which is also going down on Thursday. Okay. And so this is going to be about the balance that we have to strike between standing in and fitting out. So Aquarius is all things groups, right? It represents humanity on a broader scale, but it also represents groups that share like-mindedness, okay? And so this is sort of finding your tribe. That's very much the energy of Aquarius, right? It's identifying as part of a group, as part of an association, you know, all of those things. And so the moon is going to be in Aquarius, right? So maybe your groups, your associations, and things like that are going to be highlighted, but the sun is going to be in Leo. And Leo is all about standing out. Leo is all about individualism, being your authentic self, you know, identifying as just you and your lonesome, right? Not being part of a group. And so this is the dichotomy that's going to be at play with this full moon, okay? So inherent in this dichotomy, right, is sort of the pressure that comes with societal norms, right? Because we're all, for better or for worse, part of one society. And fitting into that society, assimilating, you know, being accepted, may feel there's a pressure that comes with that, right? Some call it peer pressure, but there's a pressure nonetheless of fitting in, right? Especially with society. And the one thing about Aquarius is, though, even though Aquarius is a sign of group activities and group think, there's this element of Aquarius that's all about personal freedom. So the healthy expression of Aquarius energy is, even though you're part of a group and you have this like-mindedness, you know, amongst you, you're still very much your own person, and you're not, you know, tied to this group in an unhealthy way. Okay. And for some of us, this is the theme that's going to be playing out at this full moon. Personal freedom is going to be a very big thing. Okay. Particularly freedom from past limitations and structures. Aquarius is all about structure as well, right? Because Aquarius is also, in addition to Capricorn, Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is all about discipline, diligence, and structure. But Aquarius is about structure in terms of freedom and in terms of looking to the future. So it's about forming new structures that are very different from the old structures. So a lot of us may be feeling this old versus new energy, this fitting in versus standing out energy. and looking to the future and trying to build things for the future and into the future. Okay. But I feel like the undercurrent of this full moon is going to be personal freedom and wanting to break free and sort of not giving a fuck about what society says, what people want. We're really focused on our own futures and what we want them to look like and who we want to be. And feeling free and untethered is going to be the undercurrent of this full moon. So it should be pretty interesting. But I still haven't gotten into the week in and of itself. So I've given a pretty good overview of, what to look forward to. So now let's get into the week and see what we have. All right. That's not where we are. All right. Okay, here we are. So for this week, like I mentioned before, we have the moon in Capricorn on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we have Venus opposite Pluto. On Wednesday, we have the sun square the North Node, which is that identity crisis that I was talking about. And the moon is going to be moving into Aquarius, whereby on Thursday, the moon in Aquarius will reach full moon status. Venus is moving into Leo. The sun will be square Uranus and Mars will be sextile Neptune. Then on Friday, we have the moon moving into dreamy Pisces. And we close out the week on Sunday with Mars trine Pluto, the sun opposite Saturn, and the moon in Aries. All right, so let's get into it. So we start off on Monday. So Monday, we have the moon in Capricorn, which I sort of went into before, right? So this is sort of feeling frustrated, feeling almost like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, very much being rooted in reality, okay? And the emotions that come with that. So with that Mars square Saturn, plus that conjunction of Uranus, Mars, and the North Node in Taurus, a lot of us are going to be feeling frustrated because we can't get to where we want to go right now. And we're experiencing delays and challenges and things like that, okay? So it's important that you are patient with yourself and with others, especially on Monday, because most of us will be in our feelings, okay? But it's also a good moon to be productive because Capricorn is all about work. Capricorn is all about diligence and discipline. So if you have tasks, particularly difficult tasks, although you're not going to feel like doing them, although you may just want to throw your hands up in the air and give up, you're definitely going to want to get them done on Monday, right? And with Capricorn, what I like about work in terms of Capricorn energy, it's not just work for the sake of working, right? When you think about all of the earth signs, Taurus is about work, but it's about building. It's about the beginning stages of what you need to do to sort of build the foundation. Work in Virgo is service oriented, and it's also perfecting what we've also worked on. The thing about Capricorn work is work that's further along and it's geared towards success and completion. So whenever we're doing work in sort of a Capricorn-esque kind of energy, it's very much about the finish line. It's very much about the accolades. It's very much about the feeling of fulfillment that we'll have when we complete something, okay? And so that's sort of the energy you're working with in terms of working on Monday with the moon in Capricorn, okay? So it's about keeping the end in sight, keeping your eyes on the prize, and just doing what you need to do, putting your nose to the grindstone and getting to work, okay? As frustrating as it may feel, is definitely worth it in the end. And I think in the coming weeks, we're going to see that. Once we get out of this wonky sort of shitty energy, and definitely once Mars moves into Gemini on the 20th, the energy is not going to feel so heavy. It's not going to feel so frustrated. As a matter of fact, once Mars moves into Gemini, we're going to have a battery in our back and things are going to pick up almost at lightning speed. But I'm going to do a video on that, which I'll probably upload next week, but it'll definitely be before Mars goes into Gemini. So definitely look out for that. Okay. So that's Monday. Next up on Tuesday, we've got Venus opposite Pluto. Okay. And so this is going to put pressure on our relationships. Okay. Anything that Pluto touches intensifies. Okay. So anything that we're feeling when Pluto is in the mix is heavy, it's intense, it's deep, it's substantive and transformative, because Pluto is the planet of destruction. It's the planet of endings. It's the planet of death, but death as always leads to rebirth. So, needless to say, many of our personal and closest relationships are going to come into the fold on Tuesday. And you're probably feeling this energy already, and it'll definitely be lasting on into the week, right? But it's sort of going to be putting your relationships to the test, okay? The ability to transform personally and together, right, is sort of going to be highlighted. Now, this is one of those transits where if you've got an amazing relationship already, things are just going to get even better. But if you've got any sort of issues, any underlying issues in your relationships that haven't been addressed, that you've been ignoring, those things are going to come and smack you in the face. And this is one of those transits where if your relationship is jacked up, like it's not necessarily going to last. You may see some endings with this transit because Pluto was all about purification. Endings aren't endings for no reason. Endings are a way to purify and to start anew, to have a rebirth. And so if you have a shitty relationship, like Pluto's going to be like, yeah, you don't need this anymore. We're ending this. And we're ending it in a very sort of dramatic way. Okay. So things like control, manipulation, obsession, jealousy, possessiveness, feeling threatened, feeling insecure, if any of those things are present either in you, right, and in you with respect to your relationships, that's just going to blow up in your face, okay? This is one of those transits that lends itself to relationship drama. This is, obsessive compulsive behavior, doing crazy things, playing private eye. And again, this doesn't have to do with just romantic relationships. This could be any relationships. I'm sure at one point we've all had that friend that was super clingy, that, was all up and through your life, right? This is how this transit could also apply to that sort of relationship as well. And I mean, things like jealousy, possessiveness, obsession, envy, all of those things play out in all types of relationships. So regardless of what type of relationship this pertains to, and of course, that depends on where this is going down in your chart, that's where you're going to see some of this playing out. Abuse and violence are also characteristic of Pluto energy. So this is one of those transits where you may see an uptick in things like domestic violence cases, things like that. So you're going to want to be mindful of that, especially if you have a relationship that has those kind of tendencies. This could also, on the positive note, right? I don't want you to think that this transit is just purely negative. On a positive note, this could intensify attraction, okay? Sexual attraction. Any sort of attraction in a relationship could also be heightened. And that could be a great thing if you know how to wield that power constructively. Because one of the things with Pluto is that Pluto is all about control. And the person that has the control, right, especially if we're talking about an opposition can be an imbalance. So if we're talking about a relationship, you may have one person or one partner that has all of the control and the other person has none. And the person with control may be wielding it against the other person in a way that's manipulative, that's abusive, right? So if you're the one that's holding all the control, you definitely want to be mindful of how you use it. Because trust and believe, cause and effect, my definition of karma, that shit is going to come back to bite you in the ass, perhaps. So just keep that in mind. In terms of sex and all of that, this is a great transit for like BDSM, subdom, masochistic behavior, whatever your kink is, that this is the transit to sort of bring that out and explore that. So keep that in mind if that's something that you are into. But by and large, the presence of Pluto is all about transformation. And so whatever does come up with respect to these relationships and this transit, it's really an opportunity to transform the relationship from the inside out. Especially, again, if you're dealing with things like control issues, manipulation, and stuff like that. This may be the transit that lights a fire under your ass to sort of take charge and address some of the underlying issues that are present in your relationship. So while it may not be the best feeling transit, it definitely can be one that gets you in the right place for your relationships. All right, so that was Tuesday. So now let's move on to Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we have that identity crisis of Sun square North Node. And then we have the moon moving into Aquarius. All right, so I think I pretty much covered the Sun square North Node. This is really about your identity, who you are currently, who you were even in the past, and who you are becoming. Okay. And so again, there may be some tension there. There may be some frustration, but this also may be that you don't necessarily take your destiny seriously, if that makes any sense. Like some people I think may think that, oh, that's cute, that's nice, that sounds good, but that's not who I am. And being very headstrong and prideful about where you are now and who you are now. Okay. And I feel like for some, it's definitely going to be a wake up call, at least in the sense that who you are now may not necessarily be who you are becoming, but I think your outside circumstances, whether that's, situations, whether it's people, etc., are going to sort of show that to you, sort of show who you are meant to become or what characteristics you need to take on in order to have the things that you want. Okay. So again, I think that Wednesday is going to be quite an enlightening day in terms of our own personal development. Okay. All right. And so then we have the moon moving into Aquarius. Now on Wednesday, it's not going to be full moon status. We're still going to be in the waning crescent phase of the moon. Also, with the moon moving into Aquarius on Wednesday, we're moving into the balsamic phase. For people that do spell work and witchcraft and stuff like that, this is when people do dark magic because the moon is completely dark in the sky, right? That's when you plant seeds, especially if you're planting malicious seeds. This is the time when a lot of people like to do that kind of stuff. Not to fearmonger or anything, but I'm just putting that out there. But when the moon moves into Aquarius, we're going to be future minded. We're going to be motivated to create new structures that look into the future. Attraction to all that's new and unusual, weird and quirky. Not necessarily emotional, even though the moon covers our emotions. Moon in Aquarius is more intellectual than emotional. So this is sort of making sense of what we feel, where we want to go. Right? Making sense of our emotions. Things like brainstorming, planning, dealing with group ideals, progressive changes. All of those things are activities that thrive when the moon is in Aquarius. So when the moon moves into Aquarius on Wednesday, it's a great day to think of a master plan, especially related to the things that we want to achieve. Sort of all of that Mars, North Node, Uranus conjunction energy and Taurus that I was talking about before. A lot of us are revved up about something in particular, right? It could be anything. Only you know what that is. But with the moon in Aquarius, I feel like it's a great day to sort of plan for the future. How can I do this differently? What's a new spin I can put on this? Those are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself while the moon is in Aquarius. All right. Then we move into Thursday, which is the star day of the week. We've got the full moon in Aquarius. We've got Venus moving into Leo. We've got the sun square Uranus, and we have Mars sextile Neptune. All right. So let me get my notes and see what we've got here. All right. So I pretty much talked about the full moon in Aquarius. But it does bear mentioning that Saturn is definitely going to be in the mix when it comes to this full moon. The full moon will be conjunct Saturn and square to Uranus. Okay. And I'm doing a full moon in Aquarius video that should be released by Tuesday, the latest. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you won't miss anything and you'll be notified when that video definitely comes out. Right. But this is about expecting the unexpected, as if we haven't been doing that already. Like Uranus has been a major player over the last couple of weeks. So it's all about surprise. It's all about the hand of God. It's all about things moving around that we don't necessarily have control of. And that's continuing. That's a continued theme with this full moon. Okay. Wherever Aquarius is in your chart is the area of life that's going to be highlighted. So something in that area of life may come to a culmination. You may have things that were hidden that finally come to light under the full moon. And anything under the full moon is always going to elicit an emotional response. Full moons tend to be highly emotional. sort of emotionally detached and more intellectual than emotional. It's still going to elicit a bit of an emotional response, but you're going to be handling it in a different way. As opposed to like a full moon in Pisces, let's say, that's hella emotional. Full moon in Aquarius is like, okay, I'm emotional, but my emotions aren't overtaking me and I'm able to make sense of what my emotions are. I'm able to think about them. Okay. So that's sort of how we deal with full moon in Aquarius. So with this full moon, karma could be coming. This could highlight the need for discipline and structure wherever this full moon is going down in your chart. And again, Aquarius is all about structure, but it's all about sort of breaking out of the mold and forming a new structure. So it's not necessarily going to be this energy of keep doing things the way that they've been done. This is more about forging a new path, creating a new structure, something that's more futuristic with respect to wherever this is going down in your chart. So that's definitely something to think about with this full moon. This could also be a long-term project that is coming to a close. So something that may have happened at the new moon, seeds that you planted at the new moon in Aquarius back in February, I believe it was February 1st, might finally be coming to a completion. You know, whether it's your project or a project in your neighborhood or a project at work that someone else was working on, a long-term project may be coming to a close. And of course, it all depends on where this full moon is going down in your chart. All right, so that's the full moon in Aquarius. Then we have Venus in Leo, which I mentioned before. This is taking pride in love with grand gestures, romance for the show of it, not necessarily for the substance. But the thing with Venus and Leo is that it's very warm. It's very generous. It's very lighthearted. It's also very childlike because Leo is also the sign that represents the inner child. So many of us may be tapping into our inner children with Venus in Leo. A lot of us may be listening more to our hearts, following our hearts more, having the courage to follow our hearts. Okay. Venus is also a planet of creativity. So many of us may be tapping into our creative sides, but creativity that actually feels good. I mean, if you look at the way society is going right now, everyone is talking about like monetizing a hobby, being creative, but being able to make a shop out of it or doing something else. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, that's not how Venus in Leo necessarily works or feels. Venus in Leo is having a hobby that just makes you feel good. Venus in Leo could be taking out a coloring book and crayons, regardless of how old you are, and just sitting down and coloring. Right? It's not something that's going to make you money. It's not part of hustle culture. It's not part of anything of that, but it's something that just makes you feel good and perhaps is representative of your inner child. Okay. So think about that. And I like this energy a lot because especially with everything that's going on right now, with a lot of frustration, with a lot of tension, Venus in Leo is going to be like, you know what? Just stop and have fun for fun's sake. Right? Stop and do something creative. Stop and do something that your inner child would love just for the sake of doing it, just for feeling good, for making yourself feel. And so that's something I love that because that's this energy that we can tap into, especially now, whenever we're feeling that things are too heavy, whenever we're dealing too much with trying to get ahead and doing the most and doing all the things right now. I feel like Venus in Leo is that nice reprieve from that energy and it allows us to just have fun and be childlike. So definitely use that to your advantage once Venus goes into Leo on Thursday. All right. Then we have the Sun square Uranus on Thursday, right? And this is sort of, again, anytime you have Uranus in the mix, it's all about surprises. It's all about things happening suddenly, all of that stuff. So this is the reminder that this transit is giving us, is that you have to be open-minded and flexible. That's one of the things with the way the cosmos works, right? Sometimes you just have to go with the flow. I have a friend who famously always says you have to follow the bender. Like, so you have to be flexible. You have to be able to roll with the punches. And sun's is going to require that of us, right? This could be unpredictable behavior because sun is all about our ego and personality. So this could be like uncharacteristic behavior, either from you or from others. This could be rapid changes. This could be unexpected outbursts from people, right? Because people are feeling unsettled and unsettled in who they are. Remember, that energy of that identity crisis is still very present because it just happened the day before. So people are sort of unsettled in who they are in their spirit. They don't have a stronghold on who they are, right? And now they have to deal with you. Not to say that you're a problem or anything like that, but I'm having a problem figuring out what I want, who I am, and now I have to deal with other people, and it just may cause unexpected outbursts, right? So be mindful of that. We don't have Mars in the mix with this transit, but that could always lead to conflict, confrontation, things like that. So give yourself and others grace at this time. Accidents are very much a thing with this transit. Now, the conjunction of last week, if you guys have been listening to the news, I don't know about you, but I've been seeing a lot of car accidents, a lot of freak accidents involving heavy machinery, things like that. That's still going on right now. So you definitely want to be mindful of how you drive. You definitely want to be mindful of others. It's a lot. It's a lot. Accidents can definitely happen. So you want to be mindful of that. Ego conflicts is another thing, as if we haven't been dealing with this enough already. Many of us will be really rooted in our egos, strong egos, wanting to express ourselves, and sort of met with resistance or frustration when it comes to that. The thing with Uranus is that Uranus can always lead to unexpected consequences. Okay. So if you find yourself in an argument, the results of that argument, the results of that confrontation may go completely left than what you expected. And it's not to say that you shouldn't stand your ground. You shouldn't confront people if necessary, but just this is where the open-mindedness and the flexibility comes in, because you're good. Things may go in a completely different direction than you expected. All right. So just keep that in mind, and things can escalate very quickly. So any sort of little argument, little confrontation could definitely blow up in an instant. So you want to be mindful of that. But the good thing about this transit, sort of the positive note of this transit, is that it can lead to positive change and rapid change at that. You know, if you're willing to roll with the punches. Again, that's why you got to be open-minded and flexible. This could be positive change and change that takes root very quickly. Okay. Another thing, whenever we talk about the sun, we're talking about our personalities, we're talking about ourselves. So inherent in this transit is sort of a rapid change to your appearance or your self-esteem. Okay, so this transit, long story short, is great for personal changes if you can remain flexible to what's going on. All right. So between Wednesday and Thursday, with the sun square the North Node and the sun square Uranus, we can really change ourselves. We can really develop. These two transits are great for personal development. So keep that in mind, especially if you're dealing with some fuck shit, especially if things are unduly difficult, especially if you're experiencing things and you feel like you don't have control over what's going on. This is a moment for personal development. So if you treat it as such, then that will be the consequence of these things. All right. And then finally on Thursday, we have Mars sextile Neptune. And this is also a feel-good transit, right? So we've got Venus entering into Leo, which is warm and generous. And then we have Mars sextile Neptune, which is very sensual. It can also be a good time for romance and things like that. This is attraction to people that are in tune with your spiritual development. Okay, so you may be attracting people who are just vibing on the same wavelength as you, people who have sort of the same spirit, people with the same sort of desires. You may find that you're attracted to them or they're attracted to you, but you're drawing in these people that really feel good. Okay. This is also a great transit for things like charity work and philanthropy. I like this because Mars tends to be a little selfish and Neptune is all about doing things for the sake of humanity. So when you kind of put those together, it's like doing things for the sake of humanity, but it also feels good to you. So you'll find that people may be a bit more generous. People may be a bit more altruistic. People may be more concerned with their fellow man with this transit, which is nice. It's not going to last for too long, but it's nice. This could also be like a deep desire and motivation to work towards spiritual goals. So if you are, find yourself on a spiritual journey, you have certain goals and desires. Maybe you want to learn tarot. Maybe you want to learn astrology. Maybe you want to get into palm reading, or you are looking to learn other types of divination. Or if it's religion that you're into, maybe you are motivated to read the Bible in a year, or maybe become a pastor or something. A lot of us are going to feel motivated to pursue spiritual endeavors with this transit. All right. So that should be interesting. It'll definitely play out in an interesting sort of way. Neptune also is representative of things like film, creative endeavors, music, dance. So many of us may also find that if we're not motivated to pursue spiritual endeavors, maybe many of us will be motivated by creative endeavors and really be motivated. So this may be wanting to start a film, a documentary, choreograph, songwrite, things like that. So it's definitely a creative transit as well. And if you can, you definitely want to take advantage of it. All right. So now we move into Friday. So on Friday, we have the moon moving into Pisces. All right. Pisces is all about escaping. Okay. So with everything that's going on, many people may want to escape. Okay. And so you're going to want to be mindful because addictive behavior is characteristic of Pisces and definitely of the moon in Pisces. Wanting to escape a lot of the emotions that you may be feeling like you're drowning in your emotions and wanting to escape. So if you have a propensity for addictive behavior, you're going to want to be mindful of what you're doing, especially on Friday and into the weekend, because, you may want to escape via drugs, alcohol, any of those addictive behaviors. Okay. But this is also a great time to be creative, sort of piggybacking off of that Mars sextile Neptune energy. So the weekend is going to be good for, doing creative endeavors, sort of like I mentioned before. Pisces is highly imaginative and intuitive. So many of us, like our spidey senses, may definitely be coming online with the moon in Pisces. Also a great time to sleep. Your dream state may be extremely active when the moon is in Pisces. All right. So maybe you want to spend the weekend napping. Maybe Friday afternoon is great for a nap. You want to get some more sleep. You may even be feeling sleepier. But regardless, many of us may be getting impressions and messages and things in our dream state. So you may want to keep a dream journal handy for when the moon is in Pisces. All right. And finally, we get to Sunday. So on Sunday, we have Mars trine Pluto. We've got the sun opposite Saturn, and we've got the moon entering into fiery Aries. All right. Let's take it step by step. So first, we have Mars trine Pluto, okay? And again, we've got Pluto in the mix, so it's going to be intense. But because it's a trine, and a trine is a positive aspect, this is intense in a good way. So this is feeling very ambitious, right? This is getting that surge of motivation, which is great because many of us may feel less than motivated earlier in the week when we're going through all that other fuck shit astrology, right? So I feel like Mars trine Pluto is going to relight that fire. It's going to re-energize you and make you feel motivated again to keep going and pursue the goals that you wanted to pursue. This is about being very direct, okay? Being direct and assertive in the things that you want. The good thing, though, is that with this transit, you can be direct without being threatening. So typically, if this were like a square or an opposition, if you were being direct in what you're doing or you're trying to achieve, it would definitely be met with opposition. People may be threatened. There may be the chance for manipulation, and that's so not the case with this particular transit. So with Mars trine Pluto, you can be direct and assertive, and people will receive it well. People aren't going to be threatened. They're not going to feel like you're trying to overtake them or usurp them or anything like that. It's definitely a great transit to get ahead. Okay, so whatever you need to do to get ahead, of course, nothing that's underhanded or shady or shisty or anything like that. But anything you want to do to action steps to get ahead, you can do that in a very direct and assertive way. It also highlights leadership potential. So for some, this transit may mark a time where you are being called to lead, or you're volunteering to lead, or just your leadership potential is being noticed, and people sort of gravitate towards that and sort of thrust you at the helm so that you can lead things. Okay. This is also a great time to remove obstacles. And because it's a trine, and trine is about effortless, trines are effortless, right? Many of the obstacles, and I'm not going to say all, but many of the obstacles that we're facing, especially from last week going into this week, many of them may be removed, right? So remember I said that we're sort of going to be feeling this energy from now until when Mars moves into Gemini. But starting next Sunday, things are going to start lessening. Things are going to be less intense. Those obstacles are not going to be as forceful. They're not going to be as strict and as stringent. You're going to start to feel things getting better. You're going to feel more motivated. You're going to feel like the pathway is clearing so that you can start moving forward. Now, it's not going to be like the gates are going to drop and then it's just going to be 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. Still going to be some work. Things may still be a little slow going, especially while Mars is still in Taurus. But there are going to be less obstacles. Delays may not be as bad. Things may start to pick up. All right. So this week is going to start off a little stressful. It's going to be a little frustrating, but it's evident by the astrology that by next week, things are going to feel like you can move forward again. So we have that to look forward to. All right. Then we have the Sun opposite Saturn, which is like the opposite of what I just said. Well, no, it represents the fact that there's still going to be some obstacles, right? I just said many of the obstacles, not all of them. That's why I said it's not going to be like all of the obstacles are going to clear and it's going to be like you can go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Sun opposite Saturn, there's still going to be some of that heaviness, a little bit of those obstacles, just tiny remnants of things that make things, that make for slow moving, if that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. This could have you in your feelings, especially if you aren't yet feeling that Mars trine Pluto energy yet. You may be in your feelings. You still may be feeling stuck, feeling isolated, feeling impatient. But trust and believe the presence of Mars trine Pluto means that things are getting better slowly but surely. Those obstacles that were in your way, they're starting to drop. They're starting to dissipate. Okay. So it's important that you still stay the course because good things are coming. Now, one of the good things about Sun opposite Saturn is that you can learn new skills and valuable knowledge. And you're going to need that for when the obstacles do clear completely and it's all systems go, right? Use the downtime wisely. It's always a good idea to use your downtime wisely to learn new skills, build character, and become the person that can hold on to your manifestation, right? It's not just wanting it and achieving it by our actions. It's being the person, right? It's embodying the person that has that manifestation, that is that manifestation. And during our downtimes, during the times when things are slow or stagnant or when we're met with obstacles, that is the time to build that up, to build ourselves up. Again, to be the person that embodies that manifestation, okay? And then finally, we close out the week with the moon in Aries. And this is piggybacking off of that Mars trine Pluto energy. Moon in Aries is like you're super revved up. You're super motivated. You've got these passions and desires that you just want to pursue and achieve. And that's where you get your emotional satisfaction. So even if there's still some remnants of those obstacles, especially because of the presence of Sun opposite Saturn, Moon in Aries you're going to feel like, so what? I don't give a fuck. I don't care what's going on. I still want this. I'm still working towards this. I'm motivated towards this. I'm passionate about it and I'm going for it. And that's it, period. Right? So we end the week on a strong note. So all in all, clearly, it's one of those weeks where things are sort of up and down. We've got some heavy, intense energy that we're dealing with, but we also have nice little pockets of positivity, of romance, of creativity, right? But when all is said and done, we're going to end the week on a strong note because we're motivated. We are desirous of our manifestations. We are ready, willing, and able to do whatever action steps it takes to get there. And I like that for us, right? Because we deserve it. And we've been through enough with some of this shit, right? So I like that we end the week on that note. All right. And so, speaking of ending, this is the end of this edition of the Weekly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you got at least one important piece of information from this that'll help you in this coming week. You could be doing anything right now, but the fact that you are rocking with me, it means the world to me. And I sincerely hope that I will see you in my next week's transmission. All right. So I wish you the best for this week, and I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.